Hello and welcome to another successful garden design show. In this episode I'm going to show you how to design a low maintenance garden, and also stay tuned until the end and I'll tell you how you can join me for one of my free online garden design classes. If you're frustrated your garden doesn't look as beautiful as it could, even though you've purchased lots of lovely plants, then help is at hand. Plants are not enough. You have to have a good design layout. And when you combine design with the beauty of plants, that's when the magic really happens. It's our mission here at Successful Garden Design to show you how to do it, and it's much easier than you may think. I'm Rachel Matthews and I've been a professional international garden designer for over 25 years, and I teach garden design online. So before I get pencil to paper, let's talk about low maintenance. What does that mean to you? That's the first thing you need to look at, because one person's low maintenance is another person's high maintenance. So I've written an article on the key things to consider when designing a low maintenance garden, which I will link to in the description. But in this episode, I'm just going to do a couple of quick sketches to give you an idea of how you can go about designing a low maintenance garden. So this is the garden I'm going to do a couple of quick sketch ideas for. It's from a lady in South Africa, in Cape Town, one of my most favourite places on earth, and she has just downsized to this garden, and she wants some ideas that are low maintenance, and she's got 2 doggies, so she wants a daisy lawn as she calls it, and she likes stepping stone paths. So I'm going to do one design with the lawn and one design without, because not everybody considers a lawn low maintenance, and also I want to show you that you can do lots of different things in a small space. So I'm just starting out by very simply sort of dividing up the space, and the first thing that it looks like it needs is a little seating area. Now these days I must admit I prefer deck over paving, because as most of you that know that have been watching my Grow Together food garden series, I'm learning an awful lot about soil microbes, and I've realised to my horror that, gosh, all those patios that I've been putting in over the years, the microbe soil can't breathe, and I'm sort of now thinking, oh no, what have I done, all these patios? So I'm going to put in a deck, but if you don't want a deck, you can have a patio. So I'm just putting in a rough shape for the path, and I'm, rather than a straight path, I'm just putting in a few stepping stones here. Rather than having a straight path, it's better that you try and move the eye from side to side in a small space. And I put a little bench in there as a focal point, and a nice little place to sit that's just slightly away from the main deck, because it's always nice to have different areas as the sun moves around. And the planting border on the right hand side, that's going to stay. So what I've tried to do is divide the space up into usable areas first. Just putting in a little table and chairs there. There's plenty of access by the patio door, which is to the top left. And then everything's contained in its space. So when you have things neatly contained, it just makes things tidier, and then it's easier to maintain. So yeah, just a little stepping stone path around the bench, and you don't have to have a bench, you could have something else, and then putting a little focal point just opposite the bench, so you always want somewhere for your eye to rest as you are in the garden. You've got to have things that lead the eye around the garden, and the more you can do that rather than just look straight down it, the bigger the space will look and feel. So that's why I haven't put in just a boring straight path. So let me now show you this in colour. So I would use something like 20mm stone that's local to the area. They tend to be much cheaper. I don't tend to go in for really fancy gravels. So I'd have a few cobbles, some stepping stones, focal point here, so you've got something to look at opposite the bench, and then just 1 or 2 plants in the gravel. Now I would always put a weed suppressant membrane under the stone here, because you don't want this just to be a load of weeds. That defeats the object of of low maintenance, but just 1 or 2 plants just to break it up, because you don't want it to be all gravel because that's too stark. And she's got these lovely palm trees already in place, so I would leave those and just add a few, and then a little table and chair there. So very simple, but just leading the eye from side to side and having a few things just to break up the space. And this deck could be come out a little bit larger if you needed to get more seating in. It could come up to say about here. So, and then you just do this but a little bit lower down. So very, very simple, and that should be very easy to maintain. So that's one version without the lawn, and here's the version with the lawn. So very simple, very similar principles to before. The stepping stone path still moves the eye through and around the garden, around the bench, and then the lawn, taking a bite out of it, just makes it a little bit more interesting, and it helps mimic the shape that we've got at the top with the deck being bitten out with that planting border, if you like. So that just having elements that repeat in a design, even though it's very subtle and probably I'm the only person in the world that will notice, but it does psychologically, your brain will link all these up. So having some repetition with shape, it can be with colour, with texture, that all helps tie the garden in together nicely. So once again, we've got a focal point opposite the bench, a couple of plants going through the gravel, and the same principles. The gravel would be on weed suppressant membrane, and I would put an edge around that lawn because that's one of my pet hates, edging lawns. So that could be timber or metal or brick, whatever you fancy, or even actually you could continue some deck, a single decking strip around the lawn just to contain it and keep the edge neat, because that is one of the keys to low maintenance, having clearly defined edges. And if you're like me and hate edging lawns, then it's much better if you've got an edge of some description. So let's now put them side by side. Now I much prefer the one on the right with the lawn because I do like some green space, and that just, it gives you, I think, a bit more interest as well. I like seeing green in gardens. Although I've designed lots of gardens for people that have been all hard landscaping, my preference is always to have more plants, but as a designer you always need to do what the customer requires you to do because they're the ones that are living with it. So although I do have in my portfolio some really heavily landscaped gardens with lots of paving and lots of decking, this is sort of what I prefer, as much greenery as possible, because you know the earth should have life in it. But yes, gardens that I would be designing now, totally different from what I would have done 20 odd years ago. So I hope this episode has given you some inspiration, but if you'd like to know a little bit more, then go over to successfulgardendesigner.com and click on free in the top right menu, and you can sign up to join me on one of my free online garden design web classes. So there are 3 garden design classes to choose from, one for small gardens, one for any size of garden, and then the professional level. And what I'll do is walk you through the 9 steps to creating a stunning garden. And these are ones that I actually ended up teaching myself, because at college and in books they teach you the theory of garden design, but no one actually seems to teach you the how. So I learnt that over a 10-year period, that there is actually a formula that you can use to design a garden, and it makes it so much quicker and easier. And that's why complete amateurs with actually no previous design experience get such good results when they go through my courses. So just pick whichever one that you want to sign up for and pop in your email address, and then I can send you the details of the class. And then once you've gone through the main training, if you wish to purchase the full course, then there's a discount offer at the end. So if you watch episode 37 of the Successful Garden Design Show, you can see all of the types of gardens that our students have been able to achieve after doing the courses. And there's lots of wonderful results that we've had. So until next time, take care.